My grandfather instilled in me that there's no such thing as luck. He said luck is where hard work meets opportunity.
They want to mute me. They don't want me to speak the truth here on the Harness Players podcast, and I only speak the truth. We are live around the world, and I do mean around the world, because I'm gonna be blunt with you. I don't think this thing is flat. That just wouldn't make sense. Though I will be laughing along with all of you when I do sail off the edge of the earth into the great unknown. But I like to think that's what this great handicapping game in some ways is a metaphor for. What a terrific show we have. I've dressed for the occasion, and we don't have time to go over all of your thoughts on my outfit. I know you all love it. This is the Meadowlands Pace live roundtable, brought to you by the people you heard at the top of the show, Diamond Creek Farm. And I love that ad for so many different reasons. It's so well put together, but I also do like how if you just replace Diamond Creek Farm inside of it with Ray Cotolo, I think they tell the same story. And speaking of Diamond Creek Farm, we have a loaded panel on this handicapping show here tonight, and they include the man himself, the founder, the CEO, how many other titles do you have? Were you the one who took the shovel to the ground and said, I stake my land here, back in like the 1800s when you had to do that?
Yes, without question. That was a long time ago, actually. It's been 20 years now. I was a baby, though, 24 at the time when it started. But first time guest, long time listener. I think I've lost more than I've won listening to you knuckleheads rattle off picks, but and then maybe I'll give it back to the listeners today with some long shots and for sure bets.
But I mean, that's the way I do it. I give out horses that always only have like a 5% chance to win, and then everyone gets mad at me. And I'm like, I'm telling you, they're great prices, and when they connect, then they're upset with themselves. I know you probably won't be inside of that camp, but of course we have many other guests here, including my usual co-host, Mr. Mikee P, to my left. We also have to my bottom, Thomas Svensen, who trains horses. He gambles on horses, and sometimes he bets on people who punch one another. And I honestly think that expertise alone makes him a great harness racing handicapper in some respects. And then another man who likes to brawl, but you wouldn't really know it, Mr. Derick Giwner of the Daily Racing Form Harness. This is our all-star show for Meadowlands Pace. And since I introduced all of you at once, and we only have so much time, you all should do your introductions on top of one another. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, pass.
I mean, I already introduced Adam. Everyone who watches this live stream knows who these guys are. Everyone doesn't really want to know who I am. I want to know, though, who Adam is. Adam, come up with me here onto the big. Here we go. Onto the spotlight. Adam
doing all that
is an interesting man. This is TV magic. This is stuff that like 50 years ago made people believe that the devil was inside their house, but now it's inside their internet. Adam, you're anything but a devil. You're a good guy and a lucky guy too.
Some people might disagree with that statement.
They say the same things about me, and you know what? I can't decide anything, but at the end of the day, our actions speak for themselves, and what we do out on the track, what we do inside of our lives speak for ourselves too. And you've been lucky enough to win in the Meadowlands Pace in a way that none of us have. I can't recall even actually cashing a winner in a single one. I may have had Charlie May the year that he was disqualified just to make it as...
I know I did.
I know Mike definitely did too, but I don't want to ask you the question because you obviously own Confederate. You obviously bred Confederate. Confederate's a horse who many people who have listened to the Harness Players Roundtable know that I thought was a really good horse. And I'm not saying that just to stroke your ego. I've seen many horses too, Adam, and I'm not afraid to say when a horse is bad. Yours was good. But what I'm curious about just from you've lived in a unique experience in going through that. Like I'm not going to ask you how did it feel to win the Meadowlands Pace, because you're obviously it feels great, but you are in the unique position of you decided to breed these horses together, and then you watch this horse fall on the ground, and you have to have that worry of every day, is he going to be okay? Is he going to be okay? And then you're also discovering at the same time what he's actually becoming. What I'm more so curious about than anything is have you had enough time for that whole sprint of an experience to like actually process with you on just how magical of a thing it was to have Confederate?
No, it was obviously like the best experience ever. He was a homebred, we stand Sweet Lou. We had bred his mother. And we had bred two rock and roll dance mares to Sweet Lou that year. I think they were the only two, and it happened to be Confederate and Cannibal. And obviously, we're blessed; both are stallions now. 2 years hence, it's I have to say it's a little depressing not having a horse in the race, and watching it live last year without one in the race. Obviously, I know how it feels, and itching to get back there big time.
Well, and of course, the other piece too that I don't think a lot of people talk about. I remember coming into that race, I had no doubt what Confederate was going to do. But again, as a gambler, we sometimes think things are a lot more certain than they actually are. Obviously, we saw the news this week where Lou Print had to be an emergency scratch from the Meadowlands Pace. And I guess one thing that I am curious about, even when you have a horse as good as him, I know a lot of people say that the pressure sometimes is multiplied because the stakes feel a lot higher. But I'm just curious, from your vantage point, you knew what you had in the holster, but how were the nerves nonetheless when you were going into that week before the race even came?
There wasn't many starts that horse made that I wasn't supremely confident that we had the best horse in the race. I remember listening to you guys do this, and you were definitely on the Confederate bandwagon, and your partner there, Edison Hatter, was on the It's My Show, drumming that drum, and I think you ended up winning that battle. But no,
I had the exacta.
Yeah, exactly. The horse just exuded confidence for basically his whole career. I felt like we had won both eliminations, and we had three horses in the race. They drew 3, 4, 5. It was just going to set up perfectly for the horse. And then, of course, he, like Ken Workington said, he destroyed the field. And it was pretty awesome. I actually was listening to music during the race just because that's kind of maybe a OCD habit of mine, and listening to Eminem's song Kings Never Die. And it worked out. He was the king that night.
Well, now we're going to put a different part of your brain to the test here tonight. Obviously, we know that you can breed them, but we're going to see if you can pick them. And we're going to pick them kind of quickly here to start the show, because I don't know if anyone's looked at this Meadowlands Pace card. First and foremost, can we get a word about how stacked this card is this year? I mean, there's only one short field, aside from the Stanley Dancers, there's only one short field towards the end with the Miss Versatility. I mean, Mike, this is usually one of the marquee cards of the harness racing season. And we got kind of a taste up at Mohawk Park with how good one of these stakes nights can be. But I'd venture to say that this is probably going to top that, don't you think?
It's better because I think it's more competitive. There's not really any horses that lay too much over a lot of these races. There's going to be, I think solid betting. The handle should be, fantastic on this night. And this is a card that I want to bet. It's a card actually would be nice to be there because it's just going to be fantastic races, one after another. I think that the chance for big Maltese are in play. This is what we want as harness racing fans, because a lot of times when you're betting on harness racing, you get a lot of short prices. It's difficult at times to make money. You shouldn't have that on this card. I do think that it's very competitive, and if you get it right, you're going to do very well.
And now we're going to get underway officially, because I also have my Diamond Creek, not lip balm, not lip. It's specifically, what does it say? It says tamper sealed premium lip moisturizer to get me and all of the folks set for this card of racing we're going to
very
talk
shiny, very shiny, Ray. I like it.
Speed round. I mean, from Diamond Creek. What, you think that thing ain't going to glisten? Come on now. All right, so we're going to do a speed round through the first 4 stakes of the Meadowlands Pace card. They are the Stanley Dancer Memorial divisions and the Del Miller Memorial divisions. These, of course, are Hambletonian prep events. We're going to go around the group here for a horse that we're excited to watch, maybe want to bet inside of that race, and maybe one that we find is potentially sneaky inside of that race. We're going to start here with race number 3, which has Super Chapter fronting the field in potentially more ways than one. He's a known speed type coming in off of 3 straight wins. Adam, we're going to start with you inside of this Stanley Dancer race. Who do you think is the horse to watch here?
I mean, obviously it's Super Chapter. He's been very good in his first 3 starts of the year. Like, he's likely he will be the favorite, but I think Svensen's horse, who, raced really well last week, he looked much the best in that race. And, FaceTime Bourbon obviously is a legit horse overseas, and this horse looks legit too, but I think Super Chapter is the one to beat.
Thomas, I know that you sometimes have been a Gap Chronos aficionado, or at least one that has had him on your radar. Is he on your radar inside of this race here, even though Yannick's decided to stick Team Burke Brigade?
I don't think Yannick decided. I think Aki took him because he didn't have any others. So, I was helping Per Engblom training them on the Gap Chronos. I'm really special. So, and she was a fast, very good bred filly, and FaceTime Bourbon, like Adam said, he is like the superstar racing, and all coming through as a stallion too home in Europe. So I like Gap Chronos. The only question mark I have with him, he raced many races last year with no shoes. I'm not a big fan of that as a 2-year-old. And he already raced 2 times this year with no shoes, in the good times and in the Meadowlands last time. So I think Super Chapter wins. I think he's a horse to beat, and I don't see any horses beating him. So, I like Montserrat. Was a step up last time against cheap competition. I think he's a Hambo horse. Hidalgo, I think I like the horse, but he struggled with his gait, and I think he overachieved, and he won the New Jersey Cyrus Stakes final, who was very, very bad. So a Super Chapter for me all day.
Derick, is this a spot where you're no-brainer going Super Chapter? Is this your one where you're going to go, now I'm gonna ruffle some feathers here, but I'm going to take someone else?
One race where I'm going to ruffle some feathers? I think it's going to be more than one. I'm not playing Super Chapter. I mean, it's not because I don't respect him, but, I look at the races he's put in this year, and I really don't feel like he's beaten much. I mean, there was no one in the Yonkers Trot. I mean, he basically beat, I don't even know if I call him the second group. Maybe it's the third rung, and he beat Maryland, but beat Maryland in his first start of the year. He beat Montserrat, but he beat Montserrat in his first start of the year. So to me, I haven't seen enough to want to take him at 2-5, so I'm going to try Montserrat and take a shot and see if, I think he needs a big race, I think more than maybe, Super Chapter does in this spot, just to get him ready for the Hambletonian. So that's the way I'm going.
Mike, I see you nodding your head. So are you in concurrence?
Absolutely. This horse, I like the versatility. I feel like that this horse is progressing, and you're going to get a much better price. I mean, Super Chapter is going to be what? 2-5 at the best, perhaps, in here. So why not try Montserrat in here? Why not let him try to unleash that kick? I just think that, like Derick says, he has more to gain by racing well in this race.
The difficult thing that I have to separate Super Chapter here, and even though Vernon's kind of a fast track, I mean, he's a trotter who's been able to go 54 and change back halves. He's going to be on the lead here. Montserrat, if he gets a more aggressive steer, I could see him being viable here. But Derick, what I'm curious about, what odds do you see him realistically going?
I think somewhere in the 3-1, 4-1 range is probably what you're going to get on him. You know what? It really comes down to how much is Gap Chronos going to get bet, with Yannick not driving this week. I mean, and as Thomas mentioned, I really don't think they're going to pull the shoes this week. I don't think this is an important start for this horse. And I think they'll probably, take it a little bit more easy. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I don't think they're going to pull the shoes on Gap Chronos this week. And the value is on one rate because, like you guys said, Super Chapter is going to be 2 to 5, maybe 1 to 5. So
the horse I'm most curious about inside of that race is Blank for at least an underneath spot. I think he's going to play as a live long shot there. I thought he had a lot of gate speed there in the good times before Dexter Dunn lost him. And obviously Dunn sticks with Super Chapter here, but I feel like you get some extra value with Scotty getting on. And you could probably see Blank put in a real honest move to at least make the exotics a bit more interesting, especially if you go the direction of Super Chapter, which in the end, like, he is going to be 2 to 5, but unless Montserrat gets a pocket trip, I don't really know how he loses that race. Next division is race number 4. This is the second division of the Stanley Dancer Memorial, a matchup between the 2-year-old star Maryland with $1.3 million in his coffers and Go Dog Go, who has been probably one of the biggest rebound stories of 2025. Every single time he came up to the finish line, he threw a tantrum last year. And now when he comes to the finish line, he's probably the fastest closing. I'm curious about here, Derick. You didn't really sound that confident in that Super Chapter beat Maryland so far this season. So how do you rate the 2-year-old champion inside this race, or do you go somewhere else?
I really like Go Dog Go in this particular spot. You know, I saw the 7 to 2 morning line. I was thinking, oh, I'm going to get 7 to 2. It looks really good. But, you know, in reality, he's going to probably be 7 to 5, and Maryland will be 6 to 5 or somewhere in that range. I mean, they're going to be pretty close. And I just felt like tactically right now, everything I've seen from Maryland looks like this horse is completely being pointed to winning the Hambletonian, and every other race doesn't really matter. That's what I see from Maryland. And I feel like Go Dog Go has, you know, a really quick turn of speed. And I felt like he had the edge here, especially when I thought I can get a slightly better price than I can get on Maryland.
Thomas, we were kind of talking before the show about this matchup in particular with Go Dog Go and Maryland. Obviously, Maximus Miraz, he's just making the debut, so it's tough to really tell how aggressive he's going to be first out off that 54 and change qualifier. But if Maryland goes to the lead, which is what I think is probably going to happen after those 2 races, Go Dog Go has that inside draw. He can sit closer. How much do you think Go Dog Go's late kick could impose on Maryland where maybe he could upset, quote unquote?
I think Go Dog Go is the fastest horse in the race on 1/8 of a mile. So if he get a helmet and can sit on the helmet and use his speed the last 1/8, I think Go Dog Go have a good chance to win. But I also think, like Derick says, Maryland have 1 race to win, and that is the Hambletonian. He's been, don't going to say struggling during the winter, but he's been looking okay. And I'm super impressed how Marcus have managed to get him back after the 2 first qualifier who looked not good. Up in Bowden, he raced good both times, I think. Dexter has been very careful with him. I think he's going to be a little more aggressive on him this time. And he's getting more bounce in his gait, Maryland. And I think he's the best horse, but he's not the fastest horse. That's the only question mark I have with him. And I think it is those 2 horses who win this race, and it depends on the trip. Go is also little anxious going on the track, so he can be a little coming up behind the gate and stuff like that. Maximus Miraz is just going to have a race to see where he is after the qualifier.
And then, Mike, for you inside of this one, obviously these are 2 potentially short prices here. Do you see it somewhat as a coin flip?
Well, I mean, I think the key to the race, and we haven't really mentioned this horse's name, is Nordic Catcher, because what's Aki going to do? I mean, this horse made 239 last year. His losses were to Maryland, to Motocon Legacy. I mean, you know, that's the top of the division, and it shows up in here. Has shown a little speed. Has been bet both times. What are they going to do here? Are they going to blast off? I mean, you know, the other 2 horses, it seems like, you know, they're kind of getting cute with this race. You know, I think that I'm not saying the 4 can win the race, but he's the key to the race. He's the horse that really could shake things up and kind of make it tough on the other 2. I like Go Dog Go as the best closer and the best kick. So
Mike, Aki is always key to the race.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're not wrong.
So we never know what he's going to do.
You know, I mean, absolutely. He's one of the few that adds a bit of suspense once they leave the gate. Adam, for you inside of this Stanley Dancer Memorial, who are you keying on?
I mean, obviously the two that have been mentioned the most, they're Go Dog Go and Maryland, but I kind of land where Mike does on Nordic Catcher. I think Svanstedt is a master at getting these horses to peak at specific times, and this horse's his form is, to me, is trending up, and third time off the bench here. I like him. I think there's enough speed in the race with Variegated, who's likely going to be near the front. Thomas mentioned Maryland's going to probably land up front as well. Svanstedt's not going to want to sit back, I don't think. So, I could see the first half being fairly speedy, and like maybe that sets it up for Go Dog Go, but I could see a pocket horse, getting loose late and winning. And to me, that could be Aki's horse. So that's the one I'm going with.
Potentially quick tangent, because obviously you're in a more unique position than all of us because you decide these two mate and then you watch what happens. We mostly see, horses stick to the gates. What do you make of a horse like Nordic Catcher, who's just a continuation of this trend of trying to cross the gates?
I mean, I think it's brilliant, and it's worked out well. I mean, anybody that's paid any attention to the 2-year-olds this season seen the brilliance of the Captain Corey so far. They're about as sure-gated as possible. I think when you mix that trotting blood over at least to some beach somewhere mares, you're going to get these potentially brilliant horses, and this one might be the next one.
And of course, there's the asterisk. It's Some Beach Somewhere horses and Cam's Rocket, the other horse we all remember inside of harness racing. Because that was the sire of Goo Goo Gaga. I can never remember if he was pacing on the stallion side or not. Next, we're going to talk about the first division of the Del Miller Memorial, going from the boys to the gals here in race number 5. 11 horses go postward, and of course, Walspia for Tron Smedshammer going to have to start from the second tier. But Mike, I mean, anyone who caught racing last week and saw Yo Tilly, who's not Hambletonian Oaks eligible, show just what happens when you debut as a 2-year-old at Oak Grove over that track at the Meadowlands. I mean, how does anyone really contend with her here?
I mean, they better get going if they're going to. That's you don't see blowout wins in harness racing. You just don't see it that often. You don't see that huge, 51 and just blow everybody away like that, especially, it's only second start of the year. So, and I imagine now, like you mentioned, not eligible to the Oaks, they're going to try to get every dollar they can. I mean, I imagine they're going to blast out again. Catch me if you can. Good luck catching her. That's my theory.
Thomas, are you kind of in the same camp there?
I'm in love with Yo Tilly, and it's just a shame that she's not staked to the Oaks. So she need to make the money when she can make the money. It's like we was little on Champagne problems last week, but Nancy Tactor's horses, they raced not good last week. So she was the only one who finished in the top, but she didn't race super good in my opinion either. As well, like Margareta Hanover was ahead behind her almost, and Margareta Hanover for me is not top 30. So she have a big post. It's going to be interesting to see if they do some equipment changes. They maybe worked on the blood during this week because many of the horses underperformed. So Lady Landia just coming off a 2 qualifier. I love that horse. That is a horse who can win the Oaks. But it's like you says, Yo Tilly, she is flawless when she goes. I think it is catch me if you can. And I don't see too many horses that can be close to her.
And Adam, this is one of those interesting races just in the way that Yo Tilly, I mean, Tactical Landing, of course. We all know Tactical Landing's proving himself as a stallion. But Consolidator, I couldn't tell you what she's done. But I could tell you what the dam of Cadina's done. I could tell you what the dam of Deja Blue has done. I can even tell you what the dam of Our Charm's done. And I think she only made like $150,000 in her career. This is just a really interesting race top to bottom, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think these 11 horse fields make for some interesting battles, and horses probably have to leave or they get shuffled back. I think that one horse on the inside always causes traffic problems in the first turn anyway. I think, like Thomas said, Nancy's horses didn't race all that well. I personally think Deja Blue's the fastest horse, especially maybe over an eighth of a mile. I think Yannick likely leaves with her and maybe tries to sit the pocket. I think she's maybe, if she's close, has a chance to run down Yo Tilly, but I think Yo Tilly's probably a better horse. But for value, I'm likely going to take Deja Blue.
That's interesting because I didn't know what to make of that final quarter sprint with Conversano because I know that the seam took a while to open for Yannick, but it looked like he had the clearance and just wasn't really gaining while everyone else was. But, we see a lot of times horses when they come up the inside, they get scared. Derick, are you scared of this race?
Not really. I mean, the way I look at this race is if this race was the Hambletonian Oaks, yeah, I think that you can make cases for why Utility might lose the race, because you'd have a lot more, drivers being aggressive in this particular spot. But I don't think it is the Oaks. It's a nice race at 140 something thousand. But the bottom line is you have horses who are pointing towards 2 weeks from now. And this horse is pointing for tonight. He's looking to win this race because he doesn't have it the next race coming up for 500,000. So I just think she's going to go to the front and she's going to probably win this race. I like Champagne Problems. I think that there's room for some improvement there. I think Lady Landia will be, a horse that could be heard from. I think Delaney Hanover is a horse that we could hear from down the road, maybe even in the Oaks. But for tonight, Utility makes sense as a 3 to 5 shot.
I don't disagree with any of that. I seem to be the only one holding out still on Cadena, just believing that at a certain point the pedigree has to break through. I don't think she needs to be like a 49 trotter, but last time, let's not forget, Dex tried to leave with her, and then he had 6 other horses leaving, and now she has the pile-on post. So I'm kind of curious when she can get forward, how she might be able to get into the mix. And you're certainly going to get a good price on her. That's probably the most creative thing I can offer, because otherwise Utility, I mean, you're scratching your head more trying to figure out how to beat her, and then in the event she loses, you'll look at the page and you'll go, I could have never thought of that. And I can think of a lot. I can think of so many different things.
She's a great play here. She's 3 to 1.
Derick, there are so many more morning lines we're going to have fun with here on this card. Last part of this.
Don't you think, though, that there's going to be a lot of horses trying to get that pocket spot behind her?
I mean, Champagne Problems I see trying to leave. Deja Blue obviously likes to go forward. Most of the other ones, I think even she could just float out and make a brush or even find a second.
I don't think she has a chance in hell of being anywhere close early.
Okay. Well, you'll make some money inside of that situation. We don't have that much more time to dwell. There are a lot more other pressing races to talk about. Last inside of this quote-unquote speed round that's taken us almost 10 minutes to get into, and maybe it's partially my fault. Del Miller Memorial, 2nd Division, this time with only 10 going to the gate. I don't know why I looked at my program when I have it right up here. Obviously, Derick, I think Conversano drawing post 10 makes this perplexing race. In the same way Mike was trying to frame in the previous one, where Utility being outside with all the other inside horses wanting to jockey for position, as much as we hate to use that word. Conversano has to try and go down the road here, don't you think?
Conversano's like the Rodney Dangerfield of these horses. Like she
was 8th last time. What are you talking about?
She gets no respect. Like no one ever likes the horse, and the horse just goes out and wins and wins and wins. That being said, I mean, well, first of all, I don't expect her to be the favorite, quite frankly. I expect What a Bit Hanover to be the favorite. And post 10 is difficult. I mean, she really hasn't shown that kind of speed where she's just going to dart to the front. She's really quick. She's got a quick burst. Are they going to use it at the beginning of the race? I don't know if this is the spot where you want to empty the tank, to try to win the race. Because I think this is a pretty strong field. There's a lot of really nice fillies in here. What a Bit Hanover seems to, if there's a bad trip out there, What a Bit Hanover will find it. That's the definite guarantee. She seems to find the worst trip every single week. My top pick in here, what I went with a little bit of a price, well, a lot of bit of a price, and that's Vogish. I think the break last time will scare some people off. It scared Todd McCarthy off because he went to a Perfect Annie.
Who is better? She raced at Oak Grove. She's better.
Well, I'm sorry. All the Oak Grove horses are the best horses. But the Oak Grove season is now over, so we don't have.
No, it's not. This week is the last week. We have a $1 million card on Monday.
$1 million.
Asterisk.
I think Vogish is a horse that needs to put in a good effort here, a good showing, move forward. I thought the first race was really good. The second race, I'm not really holding, the break against her. And I'm willing to see what she has in the tank, because I think she has more in the tank than we've seen, and I'm going to get a huge price to take a shot. And, I do think What a Bit Hanover is the horse to beat, though.
Thomas, that's exactly what I was going to say. This is a race where we all know What a Bit Hanover has this ability. And even as a 2-year-old, we knew that she was probably going to be a really good horse down the line. But just the main question mark, as it sometimes is inside of these situations, is she going to get the trip to find the winner's circle?
It's all about Aki on a mile track. So, and you guys know I'm not super fan of his driving on a mile track. I think he have the best horse. I didn't like that she got that Toriassi was coming on the inside on her on Vernon, and I don't rate Toriassi super high. What a Bit Hanover, maybe it was just a bad day. There was a headwind on the home stretch. I think What a Bit Hanover is the horse to beat. I think A Perfect Annie is a good value play. She was supposed to qualify on Meadowlands. She got scratched because Nifty took the wrong horse with him to Meadowlands. So that's insane. I am agree with Derick on Vugish. I think she would beat our Duchess if it was a couple of feet more. Conversano, I'm gonna try to beat. I think she is a nice horse, good horse, but from post 10, I think it will be a fast 3/8 of a mile for her. I'm gonna be deep in this race on my pick 4 ticket or what it is on the multi. But What a Bit Hanover, Perfect Annie, and Vugish is the first 3 horses I'm gonna have on my ticket.
And Mike, I mean, you were the one who's talking about all the inside speed in the previous race. What I'm remembering is in the Graduate Pace, just as an example, Captain Albano, we all thought he was just going to cross over and clear from post 10, and then he ended up having to come from like 5th or 6th inside of that race. Do you think that could potentially be a scenario here for Conversano that maybe opens the door for someone else?
Yes, I do. I do think this race is going to get lit up because there's speed on the outside. There's horses that can do both ways. They can sit and they can go. If you look at a lot of the lines, there's some weeks where those horses are being pointed forward. I do think that they'll go in this race because, there's, decent money on the line. That's why I like our Duchess. I know that she needs to class up, but I think her kicks are pretty, are very, very much stand up on this page. If you look 26-2, 26-2, there's a 26-1 back in May. So her kick, I do think, will play very well in a race that gets lit up early. And, she's shown the ability to leave and maybe gain position. I think that Derick has turned it around a little this year, too. I think he's a little bit more confident. He can make the moves that he needs to make. And I think that this horse is a little bit tailor-made for his style also. So, I don't know. 4-1, I think, is a little ridiculous on the morning line, especially given some of the other horses in the race. I like her. I think that if it does light up, that she ends up coming and win.
Sylvia Hanover gave Tim Derick a lot of that confidence back. If you remember the quote from the winner's circle, Tim just said, I thought I forgot how to get here. That was when he won with Sylvia Hanover. Adam, though, for you, I look up and down this page, and aside from What a Bit Hanover, this is a race where I could probably argue for a bunch of different horses winning, and that does make it a murky betting proposition if you're trying to go against the probable favorite.
Yeah, which is what I'm going to do. I didn't love What a Bid last time. I thought she should have won that race, and then to let Teresi come back and beat her there, major hole, I think. Obviously you're an Oak Grove guy, but A Perfect Annie, like coming from Oak Grove after that kind of time off, I don't know about her. I actually kind of like what Mike said with our Duchess. I just don't love where I think she's going to end up. Being in the 8 hole and Conversano is likely leaving. You guys are talking about maybe Vogish pushing out of there. Like she could be back probably a little bit too far. I actually like the 6. Nobody's mentioned her yet. She's going to be my price play, likely on the whole entire card. I just think she's with David taking over. David's likely going to be aggressive as well. And being inside of some of those horses that are going to leave outside, I think bodes well for her.
You're saying that, and yet you missed the most glaring detail of Grand Reserve. She lost to an Oak Grove horse last time. But maybe that's a good reason to use her. For me, I feel like What a Bid. This is a spot where she's supposed to prove whether she is going to be a top player in the Oaks or not. Obviously, our Duchess. We've seen Tim Tetrick have these type of really good priming efforts. I mean, you watched how he tipped her off a helmet last time, and she had so much trot. The main question is just, is she going to be in the right place, as Adam said? Really, I'm not saying this because it's part of the home team, but I watched a Perfect Annie debut at 2. I don't recall seeing a horse that season that had the reach that she did so soon in her career. And she's been nursed so well in her 2 races. I believe I thought Marvin Luna drove in both of them. He drove in 1. I don't know that he's going to hold the driver's title at Oak Grove this year, but that's for a whole different show and discussion. A Perfect Annie for me, probably an interesting price play. If you get 10-1, that's honestly incredible inside of that Del Miller. We're going to go a bit out of order here now for these next few because the Meadowlands did not really do us a courtesy of trying to card them from most obvious to most unobvious or prestigious. And you'll get what I'm saying by skipping race number 7 and moving for race number 8 first and foremost. This is the Dorothy Haughton Memorial. And for those who are harness racing aficionados, if I can, connoisseurs, we're going to say. I'm using that word too often. You will see that this race is bookended by a pair of mares that everyone has obsessed with for a really long time. Twin B Joe Fresh, who, 5-2. If anyone wants to book that, that's honestly incredible. Sylvia Hanover to the outside was able to upend her at odds of 10-1 in the Perfect Sting, but I feel like a consensus here from the panel is that Twin B Joe Fresh didn't seem like she was like 100% in the race, in on the task. I don't know. Thomas, what was your impression of her? And then how are you letting that influence your evaluation of her inside of this stake?
It's going to give me a better value this time on Twin B Joe Fresh. Chris Ryder is one of the best horsemen in the business, and I think she was not on her A game. Maybe there was something with I'm sure they took full blood on her. Texas said he didn't feel the same when he come out of the last turn when the horse get close to her. She has been much the best. And if we can get maybe 1-2.
But she's 5-2 on the morning line, Thomas.
Yeah, but I've never, before I come to America, I've never seen a check before, and I never seen a morning line. So,
Derick, what about you? Or do you think that this is possibly rebound time for Twin B Joe Fresh?
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind as far as I'm concerned. It's funny. We're sitting here saying how she had a bad effort, and she paced him like 48 and change and came first over and finished second. It really wasn't that bad. I think it was a combination of she wasn't on her A game, maybe she was on her B game, and Sylvia Hanover's clearly been getting better as a 5-year-old than she was previously, and now Sylvia's stuck on the outside, which I'm sure she'll gun out, but it's not really an ideal spot. I don't see any way not to bet Twin B Joe Fresh. That being said, I kind of like My Girl EJ a lot, underneath in this spot, trying to go away from the Sylvia Hanover number. I thought she raced much better with Lasik said last time. She was used really hard. She didn't lose by that much ground. I think she could definitely fire out in this spot inside of Sylvia Hanover, to get good position. And I think she's a reasonable price play underneath Twin B Joe Fresh.
Mike, for you, are you as logical Twin B Joe Fresh here? Mike?
No, I like Sylvia. I thought that she had some potential last time when we talked on the podcast. I thought that the fact that they shipped into the Perfect Sting was a very good sign for these connections. I think she's getting back to herself. And now, she's shown the ability to beat the favorite. You're still going to have to eat the chalk on Twin B Joe Fresh. But what if she's not, what if maybe it wasn't just a bad day? What if it's going to start to turn into maybe a little bit more of a problem? I don't know. I'm going to take Sylvia. And I don't really like My Girl EJ really at all. You got Lasix last time and still, kind of went backwards in the stretch. That's no bueno for me. I don't like that. If I'm looking at a price, I'm looking at Kobe's Gigi. I think that this horse has proven in the past to maybe show up in spots like this. I realize that, again, this is a kind of a class test considering the recent lines, but
Oak Grove.
I mean, her qualifier.
Oh.
What's that?
She was racing at Oak Grove. What kind of class test could that possibly be?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that she might as well have been dropped out of heaven. I mean, if you're coming from Oak Grove. So, I mean, there you have it. No Twin Joe Fresh for me.
Wow. I was getting ready to ask you who the first president was with the lack of response there, but I gather that you were just offended.
No, there was a lag, and I missed that you were sending it to me, so that's what happened.
Oh, fair enough. Adam, lastly here, of course, this is Twin Joe Fresh Sylvia. What if you're in the interesting camp of a secret third horse might win this race?
I was going to tell you that there isn't one. No, Mike had brought up Kobe's Gigi. She obviously qualified huge for Burke again. I just don't see anybody getting past Twin Joe Fresh. I think she wasn't perfect the other day, but it takes like a humongous effort to beat her. And I think you saw Sylvia had to go a massive mile. She's also the type of filly, maybe one of the rare ones, that the more you use her and the harder you abuse her, the better she is. And Tim's likely going to have to do the same thing from the 9-hole. I just think the mare likely returns back to previous form, and newly minted Hall of Famer Chris Ryder's back on top.
Beautifully descriptive there, and we'll leave it at that for the Dorothy Haughton. Next, we're going to talk about race number 12. It's another one where there's a potential standoff, maybe. This race here, the Jerry Silverman Memorial, formerly known as the Mistletoe Chalet, but that's just to let everyone over the age of 50 know what it is we're talking about here. 3-year-old pacing fillies going for just under $200,000. Really, the story of this race, and perhaps the main thing to navigate here for all of us, is what do we do with Mikee and Minnie from the second tier? Mike, what do you do with Mikee and Minnie from the second tier here? Who was the first president?
She's an obvious contender in the race. Come on. Anyway, I went Rodeo Drive Hanover, or Rodeo Drive Dale on top. I like that kick last time, was able to beat the favorite there. Draws better, I think is getting sharper. And I don't know. I'm betting a lot of these horses on the come this weekend that maybe can take that next step forward. I'm not interested in Mikee and Minnie in this spot from this post, given there's other fish to fry now. I just don't see how they let her get the trip to win this race. She might be better than them, but I'll take the price on the 2.
I can't agree with that more. I've been on the Rodeo Drive Dale bandwagon since she was a 2-year-old. I remember watching her race at Red Mile and being continuously surprised how much she loves to gobble down horses. But I think the continual question is, who else? What is everyone else going to do with Mikee and Minnie? Derick, what are you going to do with Mikee and Minnie?
I'll use her on my tickets for certain. I mean, listen, it's obvious that Rodeo Drive Dale and Mikee and Minnie are the horses to beat. I kind of went a different way as far as my top pick, and I went with Looks Good and Lulu for a couple of reasons. One, if you go back and watch the replay of when she raced against Mikee and Minnie in that qualifier, Yannick was kind of just sitting in the pocket. He had no interest in pulling the pocket. He was just following around there. I feel like maybe there was a little bit more in the tank there, and certainly they weren't looking to show it. I've always been high on this horse. I've always thought she was really good. Obviously, she's missed a little bit of time here, so that's a question. But you know what? Is it really a question for the Ron Burke barn getting a horse ready off the bench? I don't think so. I think she's going to be a really nice price in here. And, as you said, Mikee and Minnie's in the second tier. If Yannick can gun out what Looks Good and Lulu and put her on the front, maybe he's in a pretty good spot at what should be, 6-1 on the morning line. I'll say 8-1 in real life.
Yeah, that's actually that's how I would have rated it. Adam, what do you do with Mikee and Minnie from the second tier?
Yeah, I think she's in trouble. I think the horses in front of her are not levers. I think she's likely back farther, or she's in the 2 path and likely doesn't see the rail the entire mile. I think that's going to be tricky in this field. I think Rodeo Drive Dale is probably the horse to beat from the 2-hole. I kind of like West Winds. I think Tim needs to find the winner's circle again, like he said. I think that last mile was good for her. I think she's coming in good. She's likely not going to go off at 5-1. I think she's likely higher than that. But you can't count out Burke yet. That filly was awesome last year, and at times looked to be one of the best ones. Looks good in the Lulu. Something's up. I'm not really sure what, but you don't really like the spacing of the races coming into that. I mean, yes, she was good in the qualifier, but probably needs another race before she's back.
For sure, because obviously she probably could have gone to the Fan Hanover unless it was an intentional. Just let Mikee and Minnie have the fun there, and then we'll have our fun.
Yeah, but
later.
Burke doesn't miss a race unless absolutely there's a reason. So
that's
yeah,
true. You better.
I'm going with there's a
miss
reason.
A race. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thomas, what do you do with Mikee and Minnie? We haven't even noted yet. Mikee and Minnie makes her first start on Lasix here in the second tier.
Yeah. She is the horse that I'm gonna try to beat with the post. I think Yannick gonna gun out with looks good in Lulu, and I think David gonna be very close in retake, and it's gonna be Burke first and second, and then it depends on the scenario. It depends on the half. I think there is value, like Adam saying, West Winds. I think you will be higher than 5-1, and those are the three horses I believe in. I think most on Rodeo Drive Dale, and I'm gonna try to beat Mikee and Minnie. And yeah, there is too big margin between many of the horses, so it's gonna be Burke, double Burke coming up to the half, I think.
The only other piece I want to add as intrigue to me is Brett Pelling has a horse that has not really been stakes tested yet in here, with 3 times better. Undefeated from 3 starts so far this season. It seems like she has been nursed into this stakes engagement, into trying to test the deeper waters. And I mean, Adam, you have this experience too. If there's any trainer you want trying to get a horse to build its confidence in that way and take on a big event like this, is it not Brett Pelling?
No, I mean, we obviously are massive supporters of his, and he's been good to us. And this is kind of the progression he goes through. And, you know, we're big fans of this with our own horses. So I could see her throwing down a huge mile. I don't know if she's ready for this level yet, but, you know, we watched her train all spring, and she's fast enough. I just, you know, the first time against this group might be a little bit of a challenge.
And Brett Pelling showing us just how much do you have to do to get into the Hall of Fame? It's a question that we may never have an answer to.
There's an answer. You just don't want to know what it is.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm more of a fun guy. I like to have fun here.
Ray, you should call that guy and bring him in.
Jimmy Takter, I don't know if he would remember in 2010 when Muscle Massive won the Hambletonian. There was a little pipsqueak up in the Meadowlands press box who asked a question, and he answered. He didn't answer the question, by the way. His answer was, "Who is this kid? This kid is so cool. He's so smart. That's awesome." That's all I remember from my experience meeting Jimmy Takter. But that does it for the speed round and some of the more obvious races. We're going to take a brief little time out here. It's going to be brief. It's only going to be 30 seconds. It's mostly just so I can sip from both of my beverages at the same time, which I would do on camera, but I can't spoil the trick. When we come back, we're going to talk about the William Houghton, the Hambletonian Maturity, and of course, Meadowlands Pace, which is what this whole roundtable is about. Stick around. I hope that was adequately loud for everybody and maybe blew out your eardrums. We're back here from that awesome 30-second. You guys have great commercials, Adam. I do want to say that. Every time I walk away from the computer when I have the Meadowlands on, and I know when the Diamond Creek commercial comes up because I just hear, bah, bah, bah.
Yeah, the newer one's much better. I don't like listening to my own voice on that one, but that's okay.
It's a great. It's one of those few things where I listened to the quote and I was like, I'll think about this one.
I want to hear more about where
We should
hard
make
work
Ray
meets
do it because he
opportunity.
loves to hear his own voice.
That's not true. I don't even hear my own voice right now with these headphones on. We're back here to talk more about the Meadowlands Pace Stakes card. We have saved what I think are the most interesting races for last. They include both divisions of the William Haughton Memorial, my personal favorite race every single year, the Hambletonian Maturity, and of course, the Meadowlands Pace. But first and foremost, we're not starting with race number 12. I just have that left over from the last thing I put up. We're starting with race number 7, which, of course, Adam has a little bit of a conflict of interest here. He has Sabonis from the second tier. Of course, not an ideal starting spot, but I guess, Adam, you can provide us with a little bit of interesting insight from your end. You decided to buy this horse from Stutzman, and I forget the name of the woman who owned him. I think it was like the Miller family or something like that from Indiana. Why?
They had sent the horse to Brett earlier this spring, and we had a 3-year-old that he was training with the horse, and you see the horse in the flesh, and he's a magnificent animal. And just watching him train all spring, it was like, he's kind of a horse that you could see step up, especially with Brett. The move, he's a big, strong horse. He can carry his speed a long way. And so we went about securing the rights to the horse, and we purchased him. And then Brett reached out and was like, hey, I want a piece of the horse. And I think when a trainer backs a decision like that, it made us feel good. And obviously his first 2 starts were maybe a little bit disappointing, but like Brett explained in the winner's circle, there was good reason, and Dexter was confident. And, obviously when you draw the 11 hole in a field like this, it's a little tricky, especially Dexter's been the driver on a bucket bet. Hold your breath that he's going to make the right call. And, found out earlier this morning that he was going to go with Sabonis. So I'll get in the car tomorrow morning here in Kentucky and drive north again.
I mean, you might have a little bit of a pace setup here with how this race goes. Thomas, you got Captain Albano getting an opportune draw where we know he's probably going to want to try and get that pocket trip that he loves to win from so much. Ruthless Hanover at one of these days is going to try and go his 119 and change typical mile, unless those 8-year-old gears might not just have it anymore. And Vukafalis from Post 10, I do know where he's going, and it's probably to the front here. Is this a race where you're probably going to want to try and go for a closer, a la one you went with last time, Mr. Stefanos?
Yeah, it is like this race is going to be speed because Joe Bongiorno from the 10 hole, we know is going to be speed with Vukafalas, who raced super good last time against Ken Hanover. Ruthless Hanover, you know what Cancelleri says to the drivers, take no prisoners. So, and Captain Albano going to be up there. And depends where a bucket, but I think he raced okay last time compared to what the trip he did get. We praised Dexter Dunn so many times. He didn't have his best day that day. I think he could get to the front before Ken Hanover could get to the front. And Yannick, we know what Yannick going to be. He's going to be up close to see if he can get maybe retake after the first quarter or something. And Sabonis, I had a decent bet on him when he was third, when he raced a super impressive mile against Nijinsky. He won last time, not as the top value this time. I think he can win, but I also think we need to try to beat him because he have post 11 against older horses. Coach Stefanos is going to be overbet this time, and he need the trip, and James McDonald is super good to give him the trip. I think I think a bucket bet Hanover is going to bring the value. Can he win? Yeah, he can win. Captain Albano can win. It is a wide open race. I'm going to be 5-6 deep, and it's all about the fractions. But like Coach Stefanos is going to be there on Captain Albano. I think Captain Albano and a bucket bet Hanover is the price horses.
Derick, whenever I'm looking at a race like this, obviously the mind wants to think that it's going to be an all-out guns blazing type thing. And we saw Coach Stefanos win, so it feels like that's obviously the most likely outcome. But the thing I grappled with here is you look up and down the page and you look at these horses and you know what these horses are. You know how they like to race, where they race their best from. It feels like, even though that's the path of least resistance, it's also the most likely way this race sets up. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think when you look at it on paper, there's a ton of speed there, and it makes you want to go bet a horse like Coach Stefanos. But yeah, I don't see anyone who handicaps regularly, and this is what you do, right? I don't see how you can look at this and say Coach Stefanos is a good bet. He's going to be too low in odds, and he needs the perfect trip. The race has to fall apart for him to win, because we've seen it too many times. He ends up getting bet after these races, and he just doesn't deliver the same effort, twice in a row. I like Captain Albano in here. I don't.
May I interject with what you just said?
Certainly.
You just said Coach Stefanos, and I granted, he was 9-1 last time, 3-1. I won't argue that the price isn't going to be as appealing, but who in this race doesn't need a perfect trip? Genuinely. Captain Albano is a pocket rocket.
I would argue that Sabonis didn't have a perfect trip last time and he won. I mean,
I would disagree, but okay.
I don't think that was in any way a perfect trip. He went, good fractions. He was pressured. He dug in deep. I don't know that was a perfect trip. I would say some people think Captain Albano had a perfect trip last time. And, in some aspects, maybe he did. But in some ways, really, that's not his game being second over. His game is being maybe on the lead or in the pocket more. Just like, a Buck-a-Bet Hanover. I think the Buck-a-Bet Hanover from last year goes first over, and maybe he holds for a little bit better position than he did, last week. But I also think there is some value in taking a chance with a different driver in the bike. Sometimes, a different set of hands and the horse reacts a little bit differently, so, and I'm certain Yannick will drive him differently than Dexter's been driving him. I thought 7 Colors was very good last time at a big price. Whether or not he can get involved from post 9, I don't know. But all that being said, to me, the key of this race is which Ruthless Hanover do we get? Is Ruthless Hanover going to show up with one of his big miles? Because if he does, you could take all the horses to the outside of him, 7 Colors, Bucephalus, and just throw them out because no one's getting around them. But if Ruthless Hanover is the horse we've seen for the last few weeks, where he looks like almost like a shell of his old self, then it changes things because those horses have the opportunity to get to the front.
I mean, at 8 years old, it's hard for me to think that Ruthless Hanover has room to still go like a 47 type mile. But this is a spot where if you are looking for just a all hell breaks loose type thing, don't you think you're going to get like 20-1 on him, Derick, inside of this race?
On Ruthless Hanover?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. You'll get a lot more.
Like you could argue that's an okay bet.
You might get 40-1 on Ruthless Hanover. And you know what? Would I be completely shocked if you went out and did something crazy and went 119 to 3/4 and just kept going in a 46 and change mile? I wouldn't be shocked, but I'm really not expecting it just based on what I've seen from him. He just hasn't looked very good.
Mike, for you inside of this race, obviously I'm positing it as a potential meltdown, but how do you actually see this race unfolding?
Well, I agree with Derick in a lot of the things that he said, which is incredibly rare, but except for the only one thing he did say was Coach Stefano needs a perfect trip. No, he doesn't need a perfect trip. He just needs a pace that suits him. And the way that James drives him is, I think, just fantastic. He fits this horse perfectly. That 3-1 morning line is a bit of a joke, right? I think he's going to land more probably in the 5-6-1 range just because there's other horses to bet in the race. So I do think that Sabonis is a huge player in this race. The post, in this case, the way this race is going to shape, I don't think is a bad thing. Now, I thought he was extremely impressive last time, and he beat Nijinsky in that race. He made him look ordinary, and really, that's hard for me to say as much as I like Nijinsky. So I think he's a big player. I thought Captain Albano was flat last time. I didn't think he had any excuse whatsoever. And I still think to this day, I know his times in Meadowlands are big, but I think he's a better horse on the small track. And that's just my opinion. A Buck-a-Bet, I loved him last week and he was terrible in that last race. So I'm going to go with the up-and-comers, the horses that are sharp. Coach Stefanos, I think Sabonis. Those would be my two in here because I think the race shape suits their styles. I think that they're both coming into the race properly. And really, I think it's one of those two.
Well, let's not forget that Sabonis's game has never really been on the lead. Dex even said in the post-race replay when the other guy, I don't know if the other guys who drove him he was talking about like Joey Putnam and stuff like that, but they always said the horse just caves whenever he's on the lead. And I thought he got really brave when Captain Luke came up to the inside. I didn't really ask you for an opinion, Adam, because obviously I know you're probably like, go Sabonis, but I guess maybe what's more interesting for you from the second tier, for one, do you have extra confidence with how this race could potentially shape, knowing how good of a closer he is? And also, who are the horses that are kind of on your radar as the ones to watch?
Well, I think I'd be more concerned if I drew the 10 in this field than the 11. I think following a Buckabat, first-time Yannick is always a good thing. He's going to be more aggressive with him than Dexter has been. I think Dexter's has finessed him along through the championship season last year and kind of applied the same logic this year. I think Andrew has told everybody that the horse is better on the lead when he's been interviewed about the horse. So I would expect that they would test that theory out. I agree. Albano had no excuse, although he had drawn the 10-hole 2 weeks in a row. So, the 5-hole, he likely gets closer to the pace this week. But like you said, everybody said Bongiorno's leaving from the 10-hole. I think it's likely 25-3, 25-4 to the quarter, 52-4, maybe even 50, maybe a tick faster depending on the track. And, they'll likely get to 3/4 in high 120 or 121 flat. I think that's a good setup for James. If he can work out a trip. I mean, obviously last time he was vicious in the stretch, but he did no work. He got this cruise up on the inside and then tip out and pass tired horses. The horse is obviously very fast. I like our spot with Sabonis. I think if you told me pick your spot, I certainly wouldn't have picked 11, but I would pick it over 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I'm happy.
One thing to note about Coach Stefanos last time, it was an 8-horse field. This is an 11-horse field. So there's a lot more traffic to get through this week than there was last time.
The Breeders' Crown, he circled like 10 wide and still won. So why do we care? Like James just did what all drivers did. It's if I'm in a situation where I can save ground, I'm going to save ground. And then he got lucky that it opened and he still won the race. But to think that that's what Coach Stefanos needs, I think just neglects everything he's ever done. In the same way that if we think Sabonis can't close into this race, then what was his 3-year-old season? Did he just do that in a vacuum?
I mean, Coach Stefanos' last quarters obviously are very fast, but you look down the list, Sabonis is just as fast, and he's likely going to be in front of Coach Stefanos at the top of the stretch. So, somebody's going to have to pop off a big quarter to run them down.
And just as a reminder, you will get 7-2 on Coach Stefanos, on Sabonis, excuse me. You'll get 3-1 on Coach Stefanos inside of that William Haughton Memorial. Now for my favorite. I wish this was just the Hambletonian Maturity Roundtable, but it goes for $200,000 less than the main race on the day. This is race number 9. Thank you, me. 13 horses go poster. This is one of the many reasons I love this race. It is such an anomaly inside of North American harness racing. We're usually scared to go more than 10 across. Of course, today on Meadowlands Pace Day, we got a lot of second-tier starters, so that is refreshing to see. But also, we're going 1 mile and an 1/8 inside of this race. Obviously, this produced one of the bigger surprises last season with I got the graphics all mixed up, so bear with me as I do this. We got one of the bigger surprises last season with Chapercraz crossing over from post 10 to upset inside of this Hambletonian Maturity. And that's one of the many reasons why it's such a good race. But Thomas, I mean, for a Norwegian watching North American harness racing, this also has to be a race that you look forward to every year.
Yeah, it is. Especially with 1 mile and 1/8, we have many more distance, 1.5 miles home, and sometimes 2 miles and stuff like that. So this is a very interesting race, and I also think I'm a big fan of 7/8 tracks because it benefits the horses wider out because the turn comes later. The same thing with this race. The turn comes later, so you can leave much easier. This is a hard race for me to handicap because the horse who did the best performance last time was Elista Hanover. She was 3-4 wide during the first turn, and she was parked the whole mile, but she got a helmet from Mikee, but she kicked in last time. She struggled on the last turn in the graduate on the 21st of June. She kicked in super. I think Elista Hanover is my horse to beat in this race. She's 5-1 morning line. I don't expect to get 5-1 maybe this time, but she's going to be close. But there's not going to be any big favorites. Warwick Michelle, she going to be bet. I'm not sure if the last 1-8 is going to benefit her. She raced super good last time, and I saw some guys tweeted that it was a perfect drive with Aki. Perfect drive. What could he do? He was parked, and he was lucky that Highland Kismet didn't clear to the lead. Then he would be parked the last half. So War Michelle, they're gonna depends also gonna race with no shoes or shoes. I'm gonna take that to consideration. Private Access, for me, he have overachieved this year. He won 1 for 14. I love the horse. I love how his gait and everything. But I don't think he is the toughest horse by horse. And then what are we doing with Highland Kismet? Like we discussed a little earlier that Nancy had a rough week, last 2 weeks at least. Highland Kismet got a rough trip maybe of Dexter, but he was terrible. And Gruesome Twosome was also terrible. So Highland Kismet's 20-1 morning line. Who is giving this morning line? It's not John Rallis because he would be 2-1. So, and I'm a big fan of Highland Kismet. So I'm gonna have it on my ticket because I know it's class. Dayton at Hanover. What do they gonna do this time? Do they gonna pull the shoes again? Gruesome Twosome 20-1. Yannick was looking down on him last time. He got a perfect trip and. Was it just a bad day on Gruesome Twosome? Then post 10, but he gonna bring value, Gruesome Twosome. I think he's one of the better one in this race, and I think he benefit of the last 1-8 if he is healthy and good. So Elista Hanover. After that, they're gonna be deep. It's gonna be 4 or 5 horses, but Elista Hanover is. I feel she deserved to win.
Derick, Thomas alluded to what I think is the key of the race, and it's that we are going to get 20-1 on Highland Kismet inside of here. And I mean, how can you look anywhere else if that's the proposition?
I actually like Highland Kismet a little bit in this spot just because I think a lot of people aren't going to like Highland Kismet this week, and I know the talent is there. I mean, I agree with Thomas. Elista Hanover's my top choice in here. And when I play this race in the $100,000 guaranteed pick 4, which is this is the second leg, I'm not going to have Private Access or Warwick Michelle on my ticket. You know, both of those horses will be off my ticket. I think they'll be overbet. I am not a fan of betting horses that are going to be favorites or around that area who are going off Lasix because I don't know how it's going to affect them. You know, I don't know how many.
You wouldn't last a day at Oak Grove. I'm just saying.
I don't know how many cc's of Lasix these horses are getting, and so you're asking me to take a short price on a horse that's, you know, not going to have their normal medication. If you don't have your normal medication and you have to go out and do something, maybe you won't be as good. I know when I go bowling, if I don't take my Advil before I go bowling, I know I feel it, you know, and it's not the same. So Highland Kismet's going to be on my ticket. I'm going to have Emoji Hanover at what could be 40-1 on my ticket. I felt like she had no shot in the Armbro Flight from, you know, off the pace. It was just a bad spot. And then people are going to look at that qualifier and say, oh, she made a break, you know, blah, blah, blah. It was like she took one bad step. It really wasn't that bad. I trust Luke Blay to have any horse ready, you know, off the bench. And I feel like there's some talent there. There's talent with drawn impression too. Date Night Hanover. I mean, I picked her last week and we didn't get much of a run there. You know, it'd be nice if she was in play a little bit. You know, I would feel more confident. Yeah, well, and there's Woman of Passion. There's an Oak Grove horse in the race, so you got to consider that. My best play is no Private Access, no Warwick Michelle. I won't play either of those horses. Not on my ticket at all.
with Woman of Passion, for those who watched Oak Grove, they all knew the play was actually Black Velvet Oz inside of that Kentucky Sire Stakes final, and she paid like $30 or something like that. I'm just, there's a reason why I work there, and I don't. That really does nothing for this Meadowlands card I'm handicapping, because that just means I'm going to throw all duds at the wall for this entire night.
You work there because they pay you.
That's probably the most compelling thing you've said since Advil makes me bowl better. I may actually take Advil after the show just to see what it is you feel, and not even go bowling. But
what you don't feel when you take the Advil, not what you feel.
I guess that's the whole gimmick of Advil, is that you won't feel a thing, and I know many other things that do a much worse job of that. Adam, when you look down this page, though, it's a really beautiful page. I mean, this is a field of horses that are really good. And I think what's just tough is that they're all in this weird point in their career where they've had little moments where they haven't shined as much as they had in the past. I think of like Drawn Impression for one. Private Access is a horse that's always been quirky. Security Protected was a star 2-year-old. And he always shows these little glimpses of brilliance. Of course, Highland Kismet, I thought he was going to be the Hambletonian winner, and then Carl gets the trip. Like, one thing's for sure, even if, like, this is just a good race at the end of the day, don't you think?
I think it's wide open. I probably would offend people by saying this, but I actually don't think it's a very good group of horses. Overall,
we work in different businesses.
I'd like to own half of them. I know that.
Yeah. You know, a number of years ago, Chimpanzee won from the 13 hole. I don't think anybody's winning from the second tier this time. I think it's likely a long shot. I'm like Derick. I'm probably throwing these horses coming off Lasix off the ticket. I think it's a little tricky. You know, like he said, knowing why they need it, how much they're getting. It would be picking out of a hat for me. I don't really like this group as a whole, even as a fan of the sport. But I'm going to go with Security Protected because that's Father Patrick, and it's bred by a friend of ours and Stefan Balazzi, and I don't have any other good reason to pick any other horse. So he drew the rail. He's likely going to get a trip. Andrew got along with him at 55 or 56 to 1 last week, and you know he closed well. So maybe he's trending the right direction.
I guess there you are in a different scope because for me, like as a bettor, what I see down the page is I know that these are all horses that have a decent amount of ability, and they're all in such a weird point of their career that it makes the race wide open. And so to me, that makes it a stellar field. Obviously, you know, when
it's a great betting race, Ray. I absolutely agree with that. I don't know that there's a star in this group. Mm-hmm. I think Illicit is the most likely winner based on her previous form, and you know, a chestnut filly to win on the big stage, like that's pretty cool. I could get behind that.
I think what Adam's kind of saying is that if you look at the males that are in this race, which one of these males are standing stud? And I don't think any of them are.
Well, the answer is 0, Derick.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what happens the rest of the way.
There's not a stallion in the race.
Yeah.
Wait, that's not true. There's
if you
private access, Security Protected.
Just because you have testicles doesn't make you a stallion.
Oh, come on. You don't think Amazing Catch? Come on now.
Ray's heard that before.
If you ask Balazzi, he is surprised that Security Protected is not a stallion already.
Yeah, he's done. I mean, he was a good 2-year-old.
I feel like as a 3-year-old, he just had little hiccups. But I agree with you, Adam. You look at how much trot he had in the graduate final, even though he had the fractions to chase. Like I always thought he could put together an effort like that, and he always had a really good final quarter of a mile in him when you put him in the right spot. But Mike, we haven't talked to you yet about this race. What's your approach in this unique type of race?
I feel like that's a lot for me to digest. Speaking of medications, I wonder like how you would perform in this podcast without your lithium. That would be probably even crazier than you are now.
If I was on lithium, this would be welcome to the Harness Players Podcast. I'm your host. You don't want me on lithium. Come on now.
I like a list in the race. I think it's my best bet of the night. I loved the last 2 efforts. I think the Mount and 8th suits. I think the No Lasix suits her better than most of these. She's just got to get a better trip. If she does, I think that this is going to be that breakout win for her. I know that, you know, all the hype last year and all the wins this year, still no wins. This, I think she does find a way to beat these horses with any kind of trip at all. And you know, she's 5-1 morning line. I think that this race is going to be one of those races where a lot of horses are jumbled together, and that you're going to see the private accesses. I think that the Blay horses will take money. Kismet always takes money. I don't care that the horse is 20-1 morning line. John will be there like emptying the wallet on this one. So yeah, the other horses are going to take money in this race. So she'll be a fair enough price. And I just think that she'll find a way to win this race finally, which would, and I think that I would want to build tickets around her in here. You got the big field. Yeah, I think she's just one to lean on, and there's others to fade. I don't want private access. I don't want Kismet at all. I've never liked that horse, so I'm not going to certainly take him now. I guess I could see Dayton a little bit.
Second in the Hambo.
Yeah, but they didn't win. I mean,
Carl needed every ounce of that perfect trip to win, so Yannick could do his hip hip hooray coming to the finish line. Hip hip hooray, actually, is what it would have been that day. There's my case with Highland Kismet. Does nobody remember how the Kentucky Futurity went for him? He got the exact trip that took him out of the Futurity. I expected nothing of him when Dunn got stuck in that spot. I know, as a matter of fact, Dex walked off the track and he said, "Now, Nance,
they won like 52 in that race. They didn't go 52.
52 at Lexington is like 54 at Meadowlands. You can't disagree with that." I know Dunn stepped off the track. He was like, "Nance, I got to be honest. I screwed up. I screwed up that."
This horse looked like it was shot around the turn.
I can do Derick a little better than I can do New Zealand, but I can do Australian quite well. I just didn't have time to load. The same way John's going to have time to load.
For like a 2-race deal whenever because he probably he'll be looking to jump off before the race.
You guys have not seen what I've seen clearly, and I do mean that in more ways than just talking about this race. So we'll just kind of leave it at that. There's Security Protected was the main price horse I wanted to mention there. We're going to move on to a race I know Mike really wants to talk about. He's been thinking about it all day. He was texting me this morning. Ray, I woke up. I was in such a crummy mood, and then I remembered my dearly beloved Charlie May is in race number 10 on Saturday at the Meadowlands in the second division of the William Haughton Memorial. And then I replied to Mike's text. I said, "Mike, that's great and all, but you're texting me at like 5 a.m. because he gets up super early. His day starts before everyone else even exists." But Mike, I'm going to give you the floor here first and foremost. Of course, Charlie May is your absolute use, but who else are you using inside of this?
Well, I picked him second because...
What was the point of all of that?
I don't know. Well, I mean, I would love to see him win this race. I would be there with bells on to see it again. I love the horse. I just think that he's a couple low maybe right now. I do think he has a chance to hit the board. He loves this racetrack. He had a hard time. You know, that wasn't a great trip last time. He kicked 26. You know, I think Zeron suits him. I like him. I mean, I'm not going to get off of him, but Ken Hanover's running holes through the wind right now. And I guess I shouldn't say running, but pacing. He's the now horse. He's going to be difficult to beat. And it seems like, you know, he could, and they all get beat, but he controls the race. He's faster than these right now. By the Missile, I think, is a horse that you definitely want to fade in this race. I want absolutely no part of him whatsoever. So I want Ken Hanover and maybe prices underneath. I think Charlie's a good price. I like Irvin Hanover again. I just hated the drive last time. I think he could drift up in odds. So those would be my 2 underneath.
Derick, I'm curious what thoughts were going through your head when you saw my email for the little leaflet that goes inside of the DRF harness thing with all of the expert picks and mine included. And you saw bolded, my best bet of the whole night, Fun Time Bayama.
Wow.
I was thinking that I'm in trouble because that's who I picked on top in this race.
No way! No way!
You guys.
Oh my God. That's stunning. Derick, please tell everybody what we saw.
Well, the first thing, wait, let's back up a little. The first thing I was thinking was, you know, if Mike doesn't like Charlie May, the horse has no chance. If he didn't put the horse on top, the horse has no chance. Just completely talks him out. That's the first thing. The second thing is I completely disagree with Mike, so we're right back on track here. That if there's a time you're going to bet by the Missile, this is the time to bet him when he's not going to be the favorite. You know, this week, what was he last week? 6-5. This week, you're going to get him at 5-2. maybe 3-1, somewhere around there.
But is that value on him? Do you think that's value?
Yes, to me, this
From the 11 hole.
You're going to tell me that this isn't the fastest horse in this race. If they all race as good as they can race, he doesn't win this race?
He won 2 races last year. I don't think he's the by the missile that you're thinking about reputation for him, not where he is right now.
I'm thinking that you can get a price on the horse that's the fastest horse in the race. And to me, yes, 3-1 is a decent price to take. You're going to take Ken Hanover. You're going to take Ken Hanover from post 9 at 6-5. I mean, that's a good play.
He's sharper now than the missile is for sure.
You know, I'd much rather have by the missile at 5-2 than Ken Hanover at 6-5 in these particular spots. That being said, let's talk about Fun Time by Ama.
Yes.
Who really hasn't been put in play the last couple of races. He's come home really strong, 25 and change both times. If you look at back a few starts, 3 and 4 starts back, he was used hard and he just couldn't handle it, you know. But I think he's got a little bit more of a foundation under him. I think these starts have really helped him, you know, as a racehorse. Do I know that he's a 47 pacer? I don't think anyone knows. But what I do know is that I'm going to get a huge price here to take a shot. I think James McDonald, you know, while I wasn't necessarily looking for Yannick not to drive, I knew he was going to drive by the missile. I'm going to get someone else. I don't mind having a different set of hands behind the bike. And I think where you got to take a chance, you know, if you're going to take chances, you got to take chances on horses that are going to pay big prices. And this is one of them. And I think there's the opportunity for him to be put in play. You know, whether he's going to win or not, I couldn't tell you for sure. But I do like By the Missile. I also like Captain Luke a little. I think he's been racing pretty well. I think he's going to be forwardly placed. So he's certainly a horse that I'll have on my ticket.
Yeah, our boy Brett Beck, who just Nick Offerman. Is that what your avatar is? I like that he's offering a new nickname. Hot Toddy is getting a little old for me. I like Fresh Toddy now. That's what we're going to call him as he gets the drive on Captain Luke. But Derick, I agree with you fully. We knew Fun Time by Ama. You know, just news and stuff aside from what mired his 3-year-old season, he seemed like he at least had enough of a foundation to be a solid horse. And like he moves like he can be a top player. And his last few starts have been incrementally getting him to a point where he can try here. And you're going to get a price. I'm just repeating everything you said, but in my voice, because you don't want me to do it in your voice, Derick. You don't want me to tell people why they should go bet a horse because he's a good price, because you think they just understand that, but they don't. You have to tell Mike By the Missile at 3-1 is a good price when the horse is always 4-5.
You wouldn't make it in Brooklyn there, Ray.
There's a reason my dad left. But Thomas, for you inside of this race, obviously you were impressed with Ken Hanover inside of that Brower Memorial, but the conversation is surrounding the fact that you're not going to get a price here. Are you respecting that, or are you going to try and find another price?
I want to try to beat him, but I think he should be the favorite. Then I'm a little more on Mike's. I don't going to have much money invested on By the Missile. He's getting up and he struggled a little with his health issues. He raced okay last time. I'm also going to try to have a couple of long shots like Fun Time by Ama. I'm seeing the 2 last races with Yannick. You haven't been behind the gate with him and just took him off the gate, because one time when David drove him, he was a runaway. So he's going to be paying good money. Captain Luke, I'm a big fan that we have a leading driver of Meadowlands, Brett Beck, within the chat said Flashy Toddy or Hot Toddy on Captain Luke. That would be interesting.
Wait, is that Brett Beckwith?
Yeah, I think we have Brett Beckwith. It's almost like
Brett,
having
why is your YouTube avatar Nick Offerman?
I don't know. It's almost like having Jimmy Taxer on this one. I'm sure he's listening and looking into this too, Jimmy Taxer, but he wouldn't chat in here. Irvin Hanover, I'm a big fan. Louis Philippe Roy is coming back, coming in the bike there. I never won money on Dougie, so and Irvin Hanover. I'm gonna try to beat Ken Hanover, because he's gonna be either around even money 4-5 and from the 9 hole against horses. I think is better, and it's a wider group than it was last time. So I'm gonna try to beat him.
If that is Brett Beckwith, I want to talk about Derick. You can confirm this for me. Do they crown titles on Hambletonian Day this year? Because I know they're also racing. They do. No one's talking about that Brett Beckwith is going to win the driver's title at Meadowlands this year.
You know what? I think the big you got the leading driver at the track. He's not on the card on Saturday at the Meadowlands. I think he stayed at Saratoga, maybe.
Or he's indulging in some parks and recreation of some kind. I don't. There's so many unexplainable things inside of this sport, but I've grown up in it the same way Brett has. We understand these types of things. It just because I found out he was younger than me, and that bothers me. That bothers me that people are younger than me. I've hit that age now in my life. I understand what all of you felt at this point in time.
What bothers you is that he made more last year than you've made in the last 5 years.
I think lifetime.
Derick?
Brilliant.
Don't cut deep, because then you better know how to stitch. Let's move on to the feature of this whole thing. At an hour and a half into the whole discussion, it's been a fun. I've had a fun time. I hope you guys have felt this was a valuable use of a Thursday night, potentially not seeing your kids or hanging out with your wives or doing things that are honestly better. In my opinion, you're talking with a 20-year-old guy and some other guys about which horses are going to go faster. I think that's what the American dream is in many respects. And can I get an amen across the table from everybody?
Who's the 20-year-old guy?
Really? That's Derick. I already know that I'm getting old, and I already know that on Sunday I'm going to be turning 35. But that doesn't mean you have to remind me of these sorts of things in front of me.
Turning 35.
It feels like it though. I've been in physical therapy, and I'll be honest, I do feel like I'm 19 again. Let's talk about these 3-year-olds, though, in race number 11, the $656,000 Meadowlands Pace final. I'm assuming it's a grade 1. It's not listed on the program, but I would give this a grade 1. If it's not in the book, it's a Ray Cotolo grade 1 in my book. Even with Lou Print out, this is an interesting race. And on top of that, a lot more open because Lou Print is out. We saw Poppy's Pistol put in a rebound performance at the detriment of Captain Optimistic, encountering his usual steering troubles again somewhat, maybe a little bit of fatigue from his massive mile in the North America Cup. But, Fallout, we know as a 2-year-old, he showed a lot of talent. He's been, I imagine, targeting this race, especially since he missed the final of the North America Cup. Madden Oaks has sprung into a bright surprise at this glamour boy level. Prince Hal Hanover gets, honestly, the Ray Cotolo Laugh of the Year award. I did not have a better laugh than the moment the gates sprung and he was in last place immediately. That was a guffaw of all guffaws for me inside of this sport. And now he gets an inside draw where he's probably going to go. I'm going to throw this to you, Adam, since you have more Meadowlands Pace trophies than all of us inside of this round table. What catches your eye inside of this group, and who do you feel are the real massive players?
All right, first, obviously depressed that Lou Print's out of the race. I think it was a 1-horse race there, but speedy recovery to Lou Print. I also think this is the race on the 3-year-old Pace and Colt division that kind of guarantees a winner a spot as a stallion. So that's kind of hanging out there as well. Whoever ends up winning this race likely lands a home in the breeding shed somewhere. But if I'm going for, I think Fallout is in the right spot. I think 2 starts back, he was very good. I think Tim took care of him last week. There was no reason to empty the tank there. Christ, if you give me 6-1, I'll take it all day right now. I don't think he'll go off at 6-1. I think Madden Oaks will be way over bet. I think Captain Optimistic's in a tricky spot there in the middle of the field. He doesn't love to do work, as he showed last week, being on the front end. David picks up a hot drive and Pappy's Pistol from the rail. He'll likely be in a good spot. But I think Tim works it out and wins the pace again 2 out of the last 3 years.
And you're not just saying that. If we're being honest, I'm sure Confederate won that more than Tim did in that year. But
Tim did a great job, but he was the perfect driver for that horse because he did, like, throughout the horse's career, he did absolutely the minimum amount to save him for the next week, and he just was he was the perfect driver for the horse.
Diplomatic answer. I love Timmy too. I say that merely just as a little rib. Thomas,
I'd be curious if he said that after the NA Cup.
I kicked over a TV and probably broke it upstairs, way upstairs at Mohawk. I don't know if it's been fixed yet, but I don't blame Timmy. I blame the horse that pulled out in front of him. The one horse. We won't name names.
What they should do at Mohawk, though, is never fix it and then just put some velvet rope around and it's an exhibit.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
because it shows a whole different emotion of how the sport of harness racing tends to go. Thomas,
it sucks to lose.
That's true. Though the second, I imagine the second place check at least makes it feel a little bit more okay. Not as good as the first place.
Exactly.
Thomas, what do we do with Captain Optimistic here? Because you were on the show last time saying down the road all day, all night, every single week, and then he couldn't even stay straight. So are we imagining that he might get some adjustments to correct his malfeasance around the turns, or are we just accepting that maybe he's just turning the wrong way, literally?
He is rigged that he is that he have struggled with the steerings. Like he struggled on the last turn. He always does. And I was sure he was going to win the race last time. 26-4 home. I expect a little more. But Nancy horses race bad, so I expect better performance on Captain Optimistic. I agree a little also with Adam that fallout with Timmy. He just protect them in like a regular overnight race of Meadowlands. Prince Hal Hanover, if he do the same performance he did in the North American Cup elimination, he gonna get the hot Toddy McCarty in the race.
Fresh Toddy.
Yeah, fresh Toddy or hot Toddy or I think those are the three horses for me. I'm gonna have on my pick 5 or pick 4 ticket. Pick 5. I don't gonna have any money on Madden Oaks. Madden Oaks is gonna be way overbetted. Braxton Boyd have this week waking up to he's the morning line favorite to the Meadowlands Pace. He was a 53-1 in North American Cup when he decided to leave and he got second. What is he going to do this time? Leave. So, and there is going to be people who going to try to retake from him, and I think Braxton going to try to retake again, and I think we're going to see a crazy overpace from Madden Oaks, and that falls into Hall of Famer Tim Tetrick or some of the other ones, and it's the three horses I have: Fallout, Captain Optimistic, Prince Hall, Hanover.
I don't necessarily know, Derick. I'm going to go to you because I've seen enough. The North American Cup is a great example of this, and obviously Blueprint, he's in a whole different league to these horses right now. But the front did not cave. When you look at those fractions that they went, I mean, there were some horses coming late, but Captain Optimistic was holding on well. They weren't really closing like freight trains like you'd imagine they would after they go 19 and change to the 3/4. So what I'm wondering is, what potential is there actually for Fallout to go his Metro Pace type trip? Because that's how they all went too fast up front. He towered over the top. But is this a race where it's possible that he may be able to just be like too far back and the speed is able to hold here?
Yeah, this race to me, when I look at it, is I don't see the scenario that Thomas thinks is playing out with, horses retaking. I don't see a lot of horses capable of making those moves in this race, quite frankly.
Yeah, but this is the first pace for Braxton Boyd as a morning line favorite.
He's going to go to the lead. How many horses are going to retake on him? Let's say Prince Hal Hanover.
I would take the biggest bet with you that Braxton Boyd will never cut this mile, the whole mile. The biggest bet.
And he very well might. To me, Prince Hal Hanover is going to gun out here. He's going to go as fast as he needs to go to secure that he's going to be no worse than sitting the pocket behind Madden Oaks. I don't see another horse in this race that I'm worried about brushing into Madden Oaks. and rushing right to the front. I just don't see it. I mean, Captain Optimistic, I mean, yes, I think he's the horse. He could grind into this race, and I think he could be better. I mean, we saw, I don't remember what it was, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, Aki's barn. The whole barn was just dead during the summer. Like they had a sickness, and every horse was awful. You know, maybe the same thing's going on with Nancy right now. I don't know. I give her she's obviously a good trainer, and this horse could certainly improve. Poppy's Pistol, yeah, if he gets a good trip, I think he could win the race. I think Full Out could, but my problem with Full Out is 2 starts back. It was a good effort, but he didn't beat anyone. You know, he still won a 49 mile and didn't beat anyone. And last time they didn't really try. You know, he wasn't exactly loaded late, but it was a quiet effort. I just don't know what to expect from Full Out, and I don't see the pace scenario developing, you know, where he wins. I see the 4 leaving really fast, the 9 leaving, and either the 9 getting the pocket behind him or the 9 making his way to the front, and then who's coming? I don't see who's coming, you know.
I mean, that's kind of the camp I land, because I'm not just following on the coattails of Arlo the Cockapoo inside of our YouTube chat here right now. You don't know Arlo the Cockapoo?
No.
They think Prince Hal Hanover is going to win. I'm just trying to say that I wasn't inspired by them in particular. Like, I don't know why people are accusing me of that specifically, but I do feel that his speed is going to put him into the right spot. And this is a group where unless we get like I shouldn't even say this. They went 51-4 when Some Beach Somewhere won. And the only horse that was coming at him was the horse in the pocket. And so there's sometimes we think of these races having these meltdown scenarios, and they go the fractions that are necessary, and it doesn't materialize that way. And so that's kind of why I'm giving Prince Hal Hanover the second chance here, especially because he gave me a good laugh in the North America Cup. So I should run it back. Even though we got caught by Light Up the World last time, I think that was a good tune-up for this type of race. But Mike, you have the last word here on the Meadowlands Pace. Obviously, in the end, we're kind of going a lot of logical ways, but let's not forget, you and I did a Meadowlands Pace show on my birthday. We made a big note that it was on my birthday because I had to work on my birthday. And that was the year where you were on air saying, why aren't they betting Best in Show? What's wrong with Best in Show? And then Best in Show won. Do you see this being that type of race where maybe there is a horse that we just have been ignoring for some reason?
No, I don't. And actually, it's amazing to me. What if Mad Noakes is just better than these horses? And that's my question. And he's very fast. The NA Cup drive. I realized that we sort of like were questioning the Braxton Boyd, factor in that North America Cup, and I thought that the drive in the elimination was pretty sharp. I didn't mind his aggressiveness. And then, look, he blew up the board 53-1, but that horse was fantastic in that race. I do think that maybe he just could be getting good at the right time. I don't mind. I think he'll be aggressive in this race, and I think that's fine because the rest of them aren't that good. Poppy's Pistol's really no value at 9-2. I mean, Captain Optimistic just hasn't looked very good to me. And now you could sit and rationalize it and say, oh, well, the barn's not going well. Well, I mean, maybe if you see Nancy's horses all, go crazy this weekend, then yeah, I might be interested, but I'm not right now, especially off that last, effort and the last 2 efforts, really. Prince Hal Hanover, I mean, how do you lose in a 7th length leading the stretch? I can't stand horses that do stuff like that. I don't care if it's a prep or not. I don't think that he's going to be able to finish this race. He's just going to go backwards when the time is right. So I'm not a huge chalk guy. I give a lot of prices, but I just think Mad Noakes might be the best horse. That Braxton Boyd will keep the value up. And I like him, and he would be a single on my pick 4, and I'd try to load up and get live to him for a decent multiple. If you're looking for a price underneath, why not the 8? Nobody's mentioned the 8 at all, Manolette, in the race. I realize he has to class up, but Scotty's in a big race, 25-1 kick last time in the prep. If it's going to be quick, he's going to be moving forward late at a huge price. So there's your price in the race that nobody mentioned. I'll take the outside too.
I have a question for Adam. Is this one of the worst Meadowlands Pace in a decade?
No, it might even be longer than that, Tom.
It's
really bad. Yeah.
There's 4 or 5 horses who shouldn't be in this race.
Yeah, but you watched Dave Little's top 10 Meadowlands Pace, and it got whittled down every week. And at the end, it was like you just have to put a horse in there that's eligible, not because they deserve to be there. So I'm in that camp.
I had someone coming at me. Scorsese. I want to show this one. There's no some beach somewhere near, and Ron Pierce ain't walking through that door. Well, that is true. I mean,
that would be awesome if he did.
Someone should just hand him over the lines for a race,
right.
and then he finds the winner's circle, and then no one hears from him ever again.
Yeah.
But I've seen enough races where I know good horses, bad horses. Sometimes certain setups do function similarly. And that's where I feel like Prince Hal Hanover doesn't have closers like Light Up the World to deal with. Mike, I mean, you remember in the North America Cup, everyone was talking about he was this huge closer, this massive player, and we know that he's a really good closer. So I know that it's not appealing to lose 7 lengths, but he won his back half in 53 and change after never even getting into the mix in North America Cup. I think that's a fine race to get into, and plus, there's no harm in getting Todd McCarthy aboard. That's my thought at the very least.
Lots of different drivers for that horse.
Pace.
I'll say that.
I don't think that's any fault of the horse. Now, that does it for all of the races that we were going to talk about here. Before we wrap, obviously, those who have followed these Harness Players podcasts that we do know that this is big for someone like Adam Bowden to step up and help us put on these types of shows inside of harness racing. Because, you know, Adam, you understand a lot of times we try to focus on what's already being done, but the gamblers and the gambling conversations so often get lost in the mold because of just, you know, we aren't at the table, but you guys get that. And we really do appreciate that Diamond Creek Farms helps us put on these Harness Players podcasts as well as these Harness Players roundtables this year. I appreciate it so much so, Adam, that I'm gonna do you a favor right now. I don't know if you know this, but I went to school. I got a degree, and I got a degree in mass.
Sounds like a country song.
I would whittle on the guitar, but you absolutely don't want that. I got a degree. It's in mass communications, and I've landed in the most logical spot of a college graduate, which is podcaster. But I want to offer you some pro bono help because you help us so much. I want to help you with some taglines maybe you can work with for Diamond Creek Farms inside of your promotions, your marketing, and stuff like that.
This should be good.
I've come up with a few, such as Diamond Creek Farm. You'll never find us in the rough.
That's actually not true.
I mean, but
we were just there this spring.
I was thinking, you know, like maybe if you golf, like that's also that could like. Do you land?
Yeah,
I got
it, but yeah.
Oh, okay. What about Diamond Creek Farms? We feed our horses carrots, but it's KAR.
Oh, that's a good one.
Diamond Creek Farms. Put a ring through it.
I don't get that.
You got to work on these, Ray. I'm sorry.
Wait,
appreciate the try.
I guess, yeah. Because what I was thinking was the horses go through the ring, and so that's what you guys do. You guys sell the.
This is why you're not working for Diamond Creek Farm.
You don't understand. This is my big break.
I think they just pulled the sponsorship. We got to shut them up somehow.
We might want to stop this before the bleeding starts.
Well, Diamond Creek Farms. I'm loving it.
We might get sued.
I just muted.
And then they can't afford to give you money to support this show.
Well, so my thought was if it works so well for McDonald's, then it might be able to work. Everyone eats at McDonald's. Everyone. They've made
haven't eaten at McDonald's probably in 25 years.
But you ate there once.
Yeah, not by choice. I was probably forced to do it.
The math says with 11 billion hamburgers, everyone has eaten there at some point. What about
sure I've eaten there.
Diamond Creek Farms? You buy them, we make them.
Yeah, now you're getting there.
Brutal. Okay, here's my last one.
Shine bright.
No, here's my last one. Diamond Creek Farm, a cut above.
Nice. Now you got it. Now you got it. That's sold. Caroline's listening. Write that down.
I think my work here is
All right,
done.
Ray, it's probably time to wrap this up now.
It absolutely is, because we pleased the sponsor. They have their new tagline that they're going to use in all of their adverts that I absolutely came up with off
And
the top
if
of my
you're
head.
live at the Meadowlands on Saturday night, we are sponsoring the Winners Lounge, so we're going to get to hang out with a bunch of winners.
Yeah, you guys did that at the Breeders' Crown too. It's always a party when Diamond Creek Farm comes to town. That's the secret of the pitch, though, Adam. You throw out 5 terrible ones, and then you get them with the really good one.
Nice. The one that's already been working.
That's all. Again, you're welcome. You're welcome for coming up with this. But we do genuinely thank you for coming on, being a good sport here on the show too. It was a lot of fun having you, and of course, we do genuinely appreciate it. You're going to be at the Meadowlands. Derick, tell everyone where they can find you.
I'll be at the Meadowlands, but where they can find me is at DRF Harness. You know, we're covering all this stuff. Go to drf.com/harness. You can check out all the content we have. We put out a newsletter today with tons of picks. I think we have like 9 different analysts and some stories. Jay wrote a really nice story on the older trainers who are in the pace. Bruce Saunders and Sam DePinto and Doc Moore. So I think that was a pretty cool angle to go with. But we have lots of content on there. Check it all out and just enjoy the races. It's a really good card. And I'll be in the Diamond Creek Lounge having champagne and cupcakes.
And then Thomas, are you going to be at the Meadowlands?
I'm going to be on Meadowlands both Friday and Saturday at the Trotters, and watching warm-ups and betting hard on pick 4 and pick 5s.
And then obviously Mike and I, you know where to find us. Mike is going to be back here on In the Money Media. He's out doing all types of even thoroughbred stuff. I know this is a harness show, but you'll see him doing thoroughbred stuff here. I don't know what I do really. I have 3 more days left at Oak Grove. And then I might just see how long I can make this beard for the time I have to resurface again, beyond doing these Harness Players podcasts. But thank you to all of you for watching, for listening. Of course, this is also going to be available as a podcast recording in the archive. If you want to listen to this again, because if you're watching that, if you're just hearing that, then you're probably already listening to it. But otherwise, make sure to subscribe to the In the Money Media YouTube channel. We're going to do more of these this year with thanks to this big guy over here. He may even come back for some, depending on how well his picks do on this Saturday's card.
You might want to throw those out.
But otherwise, again, 3 more days left at Oak Grove. We race Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 1:25 p.m. Central Post Time. And then that's it for 2025. But the harness racing stakes season plugs forward. Hambletonian, of course, just right around the corner, the first Saturday in August. You know we're going to be back here for that on the Harness Players podcast. Thank you to everybody.
Adios is coming too, so look out for that.
That's right. Adios is the week before the Hambletonian 2. There's a lot of stuff happening because it's the summertime. Not only is it blazing hot outside, but it's blazing hot on the racetrack too. We're glad you're here with us on this journey through the 2025 season. We'll see you next time, or you'll hear us next time. We'll talk to you next time on whatever Harness Players podcast comes next.